So when I was a kid, in the early 1970s, there were maybe 200,000 to 300,000 people in prison in the United States. Now there's over 2 million. That change occurred in my lifetime. The rise of an industrial agriculture that treats livestock like inanimate objects occurred in my lifetime. The minimum wage was higher during the Eisenhower administration, adjusted for inflation, than it is today. That change happened in my lifetime. And what you see again and again is a society that is moving away from compassion, that is moving towards hierarchy, punishment, and inequality. The book is about the American food system, but what it's really about is about this country and transformations in this country that I saw happen during my lifetime. The origins of the book actually were a year that I spent with migrant farm workers in California. And it was my introduction to the American food system. I wrote about strawberry workers. I love strawberries. I ate strawberries all the time, but I never thought about the fact that each one of those strawberries had to be carefully picked by hand. And if you want to have a lot of strawberries, you need a lot of hands to pick them. And that not only the strawberry industry, but most of the fresh fruit and vegetable industry is dependent on not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but 1 million to 2 million workers in the United States, who are the poorest workers in the United States, and yet who are responsible for our health. So in writing about migrant workers, I was trying to open people's eyes to our connection every day to the hands that feed us. And what entered the culture around 1980 was really a celebration of the self. And the line from the film, "Greed is good," a notion that compassion was something that was a sign of weakness, and that profit was a measure of virtue. And I saw it in my own generation. I saw it in the generation that I went to university with, who, very different from the generation before them, were remarkably materialistic, driven by status, driven by a desire for power and income, and not searching, not questioning, and not motivated by a desire for the greater good, but a desire for personal achievement. I've been very fortunate because of my upbringing and because of my work that I've spent time with some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in the United States, and I've spent time with literally the poorest, most unempowered people in this country. And that time basically led me to believe, there but for the grace of God go I. And it has led me to really have a sense of our shared humanity, that the difference between being at the very top and being at the very bottom may be an accident of birth, it may be a single moment, and it's really impelled me to have my work be constructive and useful in trying to make people see the links and to push for a greater compassion. And what's been sad in many ways is often people ask me, well, why do you do this? And sort of make me feel like the kind of work I do is strange or unusual. And it's only strange or unusual in American culture as it exists right now. There have been other times in our history where writers felt an obligation to write about the poor, to take an interest in social justice, to write about these sorts of issues. And I think I'm more unusual now only because of the culture, but not because there's something strange about doing what I do. My work takes me into the world and very often into very dark parts of the world. My last book was on nuclear weapons. I go into prisons. I spent time with migrant farm workers and meatpacking workers and day laborers. So I have first-hand experience of a lot of the darkness. The spirituality that I have is impossible to put into words, but I know when I feel it, and particularly when I'm in nature, I know that creation is good, and I know that despite all the evils that I encounter that are man-made, that people are basically good.